A Will Smith deposition request has emerged in a $3 million lawsuit filed against Jada Pinkett Smith, but the latest court documents do not show that Will has been ordered, or even formally required, to testify. Bilaal Salaam, a former Smith associate who is representing himself, asked Jada's attorneys by email to arrange Will's deposition. Their answer was immediate. Will is not a party to the lawsuit, and they said he had not been served with a subpoena. So could one of Hollywood's most recognizable actors actually be pulled into this case, and what would have to happen before he answers questions under oath? For verified entertainment updates without the rumors, subscribe to Startline Entertainment. The newest development became public through documents connected to a separate discovery dispute. According to correspondence dated July 7, 2026, Salaam asked Jada Pinkett Smith's legal team to make Will available for a deposition. Jada's attorneys responded that there was nothing to meet and confer about, arguing that Will is not one of the parties named in the litigation and had not received a deposition subpoena. That means the headline is about an attempted step in discovery, not a judge ordering Will Smith to appear. That procedural distinction is the most important fact in this update. California law permits parties to seek deposition testimony from people who are not parties to a lawsuit, but the attendance and testimony of a non-party generally require service of a deposition subpoena. California's official court guidance similarly describes a deposition subpoena as the document used to order a non-party witness to appear and testify. Based on the records reported so far, Salaam made a request through email, while Jada's lawyers say Will has not been subpoenaed. In practical terms, the request alone does not place a deposition on Will Smith's calendar. Salaam could attempt to issue and properly serve a subpoena, after which Will or his representatives could potentially raise objections or seek court protection depending on the scope and relevance of the proposed questioning. No publicly reported court order currently compels his testimony, and the available documents do not establish what exact questions Salaam intends to ask. The email appeared as part of Jada's own motion asking the court to compel discovery from Salaam. Her lawyers contend that his responses have been late or incomplete and that he has not produced evidence they say is directly connected to his claims. They are seeking recordings of communications with people Salaam alleges threatened him, along with medical records related to the emotional and physical harm for which he is requesting damages. Those are arguments contained in Jada's filing. The motion itself does not establish that Salaam has improperly withheld evidence unless the court makes that determination. Jada's team argues that the requested material goes to the center of Salaam's lawsuit. If a plaintiff claims that threatening telephone conversations occurred, recordings of those conversations, when they exist, could potentially support, contradict, or clarify that account. When a plaintiff seeks substantial damages for emotional distress and related injuries, medical records may also become part of discovery, although disputes can arise over relevance, privacy, and how broad a request should be. The next hearing is therefore important not only because Will's name has entered the discussion, but because the court may address what evidence Salaam must actually produce. The underlying lawsuit began in late 2025. Salaam, who has described himself as a longtime friend and professional associate of Will Smith, sued Jada for at least $3 million. His complaint alleges that she confronted him in September 2021 in the lobby of the Regency Calabasas Commons, where a private birthday event for Will was taking place. Salaam claims Jada threatened serious harm if he continued publicly discussing her private affairs and pressured him to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Those remain allegations made by Salaam, not findings by a judge or jury. Salaam also alleged that people connected to the Smiths later engaged in intimidation and retaliation. He tied part of his case to the aftermath of Will Smith's confrontation with Chris Rock at the 2022 Academy Awards, claiming he was approached about helping with crisis management but declined to participate in conduct he considered improper. He further alleged that hostility intensified when people learned he was working on a memoir. Again, those claims come from Salaam's complaint and have been denied or challenged by Jada's legal team. The public dispute also followed a 2023 online interview in which Salaam made unverified allegations concerning Will Smith's private life. Jada publicly rejected those statements, calling them false and nonsensical, and indicated that legal action was being considered. Salaam's later lawsuit included claims based partly on statements Jada made while denying his allegations and describing his conduct publicly. The truth of Salaam's original private life claims has not been established, and repeating their explicit details is not necessary to understand the current deposition dispute. In February 2026, Jada asked the Los Angeles Superior Court to strike the lawsuit under California's anti-SLAPP law. That statute provides an early procedure for challenging certain claims arising from protected speech or petitioning activity. Jada argued that Salaam was attempting to impose liability for public comments she made while responding to accusations against her family, as well as for communications connected to anticipated litigation. The court did not simply erase every dispute between them. Jada partially prevailed, with allegations connected to public media statements and a cease and desist letter removed from the case. That partial result is important because some coverage has described it broadly as the dismissal of Salaam's entire lawsuit. The more accurate current description is that significant portions were struck under the anti-SLAPP procedure, while the remaining case continued into discovery. Jada then sought approximately $49,181 in attorney fees and costs connected to her successful motion. In May, a Los Angeles judge awarded her $32,836. The court reduced the requested amount after finding that some billing rates were high, some work was excessive, and Jada had achieved only partial success. Salaam reportedly asked for consideration of his inability to pay, but the court said that argument had not been properly raised in his written opposition. That fee ruling was a real legal victory for Jada, but it did not amount to a judgment declaring every allegation in Salaam's complaint false. An anti-SLAPP decision examines whether particular claims arise from protected activity and whether the plaintiff has met the applicable legal burden at that stage. The continuing discovery dispute indicates that at least part of the lawsuit remains active. Now the two sides appear to be approaching discovery from opposite directions. Salaam wants testimony from Will Smith, potentially because Will could have knowledge about the relationships, conversations, or events described in the complaint. Jada's lawyers, meanwhile, want Salaam to produce recordings and records they say are necessary to test his claims and damages. Neither request should be confused with proof that the requested evidence will support the side seeking it. Discovery is the process of gathering and examining potential evidence before a final resolution. What remains unclear is why Salaam believes Will's testimony is necessary and how broadly he would attempt to question him. Will was reportedly present at the larger birthday event connected to the alleged 2021 confrontation, but Salaam's complaint places the alleged exchange between Salaam and Jada in a lobby. Public reporting has not established whether Will personally witnessed it, heard about it contemporaneously, or possesses relevant communications. Those questions may explain why Salaam wants the deposition, but his exact reasoning has not been laid out in the material publicly reported. Jada's lawyer's position is not necessarily that a non-party can never be questioned. Their immediate response is that Will has not been properly subpoenaed and is not a defendant or plaintiff in the case. Under California procedure, those points matter because a party can generally be noticed for a deposition through the litigation itself, while compelling a non-party's attendance requires the additional subpoena process. Even if a subpoena is eventually served, that would not guarantee that every proposed subject could be explored without limitation. Courts can address objections involving relevance, burden, privacy, harassment, or the proper scope of discovery. It is therefore too early to say that Will be questioned about every controversy Salaam has discussed publicly, or that a deposition will happen at all. The case is also unfolding beside a separate lawsuit involving Will's former wife, Sheree Zampino. In May, Zampino sued Salaam for more than $1 million, accusing him of slander and intentional infliction of emotional distress over remarks he allegedly made about her during an online interview. Salaam's liability in that case has not been established, and it is legally separate from his lawsuit against Jada. Its relevance here is limited to showing that Salaam's public interviews have generated multiple disputes involving members of the Smith family. That separate lawsuit should not be treated as evidence that Salaam's allegations against Jada are true or false. Nor should Jada's partial anti-SLAPP victory automatically determine the merits of Zampino's claims. Each case has its own pleadings, evidence, legal standards, and procedural timeline. Combining them into a single narrative of guilt would be inaccurate. The next publicly reported hearing in Salaam's case against Jada is scheduled for August 19th. People also reported that the court denied a trial request made by Salaam. The available coverage does not show a final trial date, and the more immediate issue appears to be discovery, specifically the evidence Jada is trying to obtain and any further steps Salaam takes to pursue testimony from Will. The August hearing could clarify whether Salaam must produce the communications and medical documentation sought by Jada's lawyers. It may also reveal whether the parties have made progress resolving discovery issues without additional court intervention. Unless Salaam serves Will with the required subpoena or files a motion asking the court to resolve a dispute concerning his testimony, the current email exchange may remain only a proposed deposition that Jada's team rejected. Here is the start line takeaway. What changed is that Will Smith's name is now directly inside the discovery correspondence in the lawsuit against Jada Pinkett Smith. Salaam wants him questioned, apparently believing his testimony could matter to the remaining case. But viewers should not assume that Will has joined the lawsuit, agreed to testify, or received a court order. The documents reported July 17th show a request and an objection, not a scheduled deposition. The timing also matters. Salaam enters this discovery fight after Jada partially succeeded in striking claims and secured a $32,836 fee award. At the same time, Jada's lawyers are attempting to force production of evidence they argue should support the alleged threats and claimed injuries. That places pressure on Salaam to substantiate the portions of his lawsuit that remain, while his effort to seek Will's testimony suggests he is looking for evidence beyond his own account. What viewers should not assume is that an attempt to depose Will confirms any of the underlying accusations. A deposition is an evidence-gathering tool, not a verdict. It also does not mean Will is accused of wrongdoing in this lawsuit. He is not a named party, according to the correspondence, and the latest report does not identify a claim against him. The clearest verified summary is this: Bilaal Salaam requested through a July 7th email that Will Smith provide deposition testimony in Salaam's continuing lawsuit against Jada Pinkett Smith. Jada's attorneys rejected the informal request, emphasizing that Will is a non-party and has not been subpoenaed. Jada has separately asked the court to compel Salaam to provide recordings and medical records associated with his alleged threats and claimed damages. Portions of Salaam's complaint have already been struck, and he has been ordered to pay Jada $32,836 in legal fees, but the remaining case is still ongoing. For now, the unresolved question is not what Will Smith will say under oath. It is whether Salaam completes the legal steps necessary to put him under oath in the first place, and whether the court ultimately decides that the testimony he seeks is relevant enough to move forward.